morning, everyone, and thank you. So, Brick City Live, a news website out of my hometown of Newark, New Jersey. I am its founder and editor in chief, and today I'd like to talk to you about some of the things that I learned in the startup process at an early stage. And what I really hope to do is inspire those of you who are either thinking about starting up or want to inspire others, if you're mentoring others who are thinking about starting up, to do this. So Brick City is about a year and a half old now, and we're doing great. We're becoming a local news source. We're becoming a throughway for local commerce, and I'm really, really happy with where we are right now. But this isn't easy. This was truly a something from nothing adventure. In fact, I published a Quartz article around this time last year where I called it a seeming trifecta of assumed unprofitability and presumed failure, with the three pillars of that trifecta being that it was local, it was independent, and it was journalism. And when I started this in the conceptual phase, I was extremely excited, ready to go. I quit my job, and then day one of starting, I was blank and completely paralyzed. I just did not know what to do. It actually took an intervention from my kid brother there for me to actually kind of thaw out and get started, literally mapping out on paper what this thing was, or on a whiteboard, what this thing was going to be. What I learned in those initial sputtering days is that I was going to have to develop a confidence in my prowess as an entrepreneur as a prerequisite for success and not as an outcome of it. For me, starting this site was like trying to project confidently into an empty auditorium or trying to shout into a corner. It was just really, really weird in the beginning. So how did I go about developing a confidence before I had any audience, before I had any clients, before I had any invitations to conferences like this? So I'm going to just leave you with a couple things to think about if you want to start up. The first thing I realized is that I had to have a deep respect for what I already knew. One of the biggest surprises of this for me was how much I used things I'd done in the past for this project. And in a way, I wanted to feel like I was like really prescient, that 2 years, 5 years, 10 years ago, I was picking just the right experiences to prepare me for this. But what I know at the end of the day is that I was really just being very resourceful on behalf of my business. As one example, when I was approaching this new business environment in Newark as an entrepreneur, I approached the scene as if I were going to be writing a new feature story or starting a new beat. You know, I figured out who I needed to talk to and what sequence and what the story was on the ground, and that really helped me to penetrate the business environment in my hometown. The second thing I learned was that I had a pretty sharp business strategy mind, which I had never had to use before, but I had this like latent talent for strategy. And I realized that the reason I had that was because I had lots of business problems to solve. Around a year ago, I was in the Town Night program with Jeff Jarvis and some other folks I see here from the program, and I hatched an idea to launch a local loyalty program. And it was going to be my way of monetizing the site and also fostering some more engagement in my hometown. And I spent the better part of a year being really intimidated by what I saw as the business environment and some constraints to launching. And around the first of this year, when I was in sort of resolution mode, I decided to empower myself by reframing those constraints as fixed values in an equation where I was solving for X. And suddenly, those constraints provided a framework. And they literally pointed me right toward a solution. And literally 3 weeks later, I'm piloting this program. I think all of us who are interested in starting up are going to be lucky because we have an abundance of constraints and an abundance of perceived obstacles to solve for, but you can empower yourself by turning them around and looking at them as frameworks. One of the interesting things I noticed was that even if those constraints hadn't existed, the strategy I devised would have been a smart one. And lastly, I made a commitment to learning very, very vigorously. I read a lot. I did a fellowship. But the other way I committed to learning was actually by teaching, by adding new knowledge to the entrepreneurial journalism and the local journalism space. How do you do that before you've done anything? You make a commitment to very conscientiously experimenting so that even when you do things wrong, you're not wasting any time, you're not wasting any sort of bad ideas. You're constantly learning, you're iterating, and you're providing insights to your future self and potentially to your colleagues. So, for those of you who are interested in starting up, I really encourage you to take stock of where you are now, to have a really deep respect for what you're already bringing to the table. Certainly size up where your deficits are, but please don't be afraid and please don't be intimidated. Get started now. That was quick, but thank you.